Hi everyone, my name is Alan Carrington and I'm an e-learning advisor here at Swinburne Online. You can find out more about me if you're interested by following the link that's on the screen. I wanted to prepare this revisit to Assessment 1 in this way so that I can show you another way to present online. It is called a Screencast and we will talk about how I did it at the end of the presentation. I do want to say, however, that right up front that I have written a script and I'm using a teleprompter application and I'm watching the script online and you will see my eyes follow it from time to time. I don't apologise for this. I really want to make sure that I touch all the bases and get all the information to you. If you are in my group and you have submitted an assessment, then you by now have received your grade. Some may be happy and some maybe not. Let me tell you this, all of you showed ample evidence that you had tried, and I'm even happier to say that everyone received a pass or better grade. But this presentation is not about grades. It's about something far more important than that. So stay with me and let me explain. Excellence is not about grades, as important as they are. So what can help you learn the most out of Assessment 1? Well, let me explain in a short video clip of my favourite professor-like actor, John Houseman. He also got an Oscar for his role in this movie and this TV series, and it is a classic into the 1970s, and it's still being used by law schools across the USA today. The movie and TV series is called The Paper Chase. So let's watch this short clip of part of the opening sequence. Then I hope the processes we talk about for the rest of the time will help you think like an excellent practitioner of the discipline you came to university to master.
The study of law is something new and unfamiliar to most of you, unlike any other schooling that you have ever known before. You teach yourselves the law, but I train your minds. You come in here with a skull full of mush, and if you survive, you leave thinking like a lawyer.
What Houseman says in this sequence has had a profound effect on me in my understanding of learning for the last 25 years. The concept is we can teach ourselves anything we like if you just fill in the blank. But we need help to train our mind. We need to learn how to learn, and it's a process. I appreciated the drill practice of my army days, and we need drill practice to build our mind muscle to manage change, for change is inevitable. Those who manage change well and know how to learn will excel at whatever they set out to achieve. First, we need a reality check about the team's strengths and weaknesses that emerge from the results of Assessment 1. First, we need more marketing guide criteria and less topic. Many of you focus too much on your topic. Sure, your passion showed, but you needed to spend 98% of your energy and grey matter on the marking guide criteria, and we will unpack this process in the rest of this presentation. We need more about how you learned and linking to learning models. A critical part of this assessment was about your learning and how you do that from online sources. You cannot talk about learning without referring to the learning models like social constructivism. Reference to these models was critical to achieve excellent results in this criteria. We needed more of Metzger's checklist and specific evaluation criteria. Metzger's checklist was necessary to quantify what made a good internet resource choice. Going it alone without it was not convincing. We needed more specific websites and fewer platforms. Now, we talked about the credibility of platforms in the forums and in the collaborate sessions, but people still used Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook and others as a platform. Many of you aimed too broad and were therefore too general. We needed more references and less Wikipedia. Many of you started with Wikipedia pages, but even more dangerous, you tried to provide evidence that the platform of Wikipedia in general was credible. Remember, we talked about how best to use a website cited as a reference from a Wikipedia page. Finally, we needed more reference style guides and fewer generalities. Some used a reference list and some didn't, or it was just a list of the web pages. You needed to master the APA or Harvard style guides from Swinburne online. You will find links to them in the course, and more on this later as we look at the lessons about learning from Assessment 1. The feedback is what is important. Can I encourage every one of you to look at your feedback again and see how it can help you in Assessment 2. Remember, your grade reflects how well you have mastered today's content. However, today's content will be replaced by tomorrow's content, which will be replaced by the next and the next. Do you get the drift? What I hope you learn from Assessment 1 is some things on how to train your mind to learn. It's all about the feedback I gave you. It's about process. So how do you focus on process and learn to learn from Assessment 1 to apply to Assessment 2? How do you maintain your focus and strive for excellence? Now stay with me on this. Okay, so how do you maintain your focus on excellence? First, you've got to start by really accepting that you are all capable of a distinction or above. Learn how to work smarter. Don't fall for Murphy's Law for university students. I just made that up, by the way. But have you heard this one? All I need is P, as P's make degrees. That might be so, but P's don't get you the job that you always wanted. They don't get you the career of your choice, and they don't get you recognition from leadership. With every assessment, it's all about the marking guide. You need to visit and revisit this guide. It describes the degrees of excellence. Call them distinction or high distinction if you like, but let's look at that process. Start by targeting the distinction descriptor, level of quality. That gives you one up and one down to compare it with. Remember, distinction. Remember to always push the envelope. There is always a better way. And ask yourself the tough questions. Is what I am writing or producing, and then add the descriptor for distinction and personalize it. This will make more sense in a minute as we unpack each criteria of the marking guide. Ask yourself these questions well before you start writing, during the writing, and after you finish. Make it one of the last things you do before you submit your assessment paper. Now we will quickly visit each criteria of the assessment. Think about the distinction descriptor and reword it into a personal question. Now it reads, is what I am writing a clear description of the purpose of my search, the sites and what they offer, and is it very clear why my online sources I have selected have helped me learn more about my chosen topic? What are the key words of the descriptor? What does clear mean? Now one down is credit, and it uses beyond a basic description. So ask yourself, are my descriptions only just beyond basic? How do I get my work on description to be one up and a HD? What does excellent and insightful mean? Now, are there examples of a clear description of a website in the teaching materials? Go and read to find out, and see if you can find the characteristics of a clear description. Then refer to it and cite it in your in-text and on your reference list. Now, if you still need help on describing and understanding what clear description means, bring this up on the discussion board and get some team thinking on it well before the due date. There is no such thing as a dumb question, only the one you don't ask. You use the same process for the terms very clear why. Ask what features and methods used by the website that get through to you, and you learn stuff. How do you learn? This is of course helped by understanding and referring to the learning models. To get a distinction or a high distinction, you need to link how you learn to one or more learning models. For example, social constructivism or metacognition. This takes your work towards insightful and a HD. We are now in process. Now you do the same thing for the evaluation criteria. Turn the distinction descriptor into a personal question. Is what I am writing providing a good evaluation and making it clear to the marker why my selections are good quality online sources? Also ask yourself, could what you are doing and writing be more like the one level down descriptor, that is the credit, and what's the difference? The word good is missing. You would only get a credit if you produced a mediocre evaluation and not a good evaluation. How do you tell? Find out what the term good looks like when it's used by the marking guide. Was there any description of a good website evaluation in the teaching materials? Go read it and get the criteria. Refer to it and cite it in your in-text and on your reference list. This is, of course, the Metzger checklist, and to get a distinction or a HD, you would need to refer to an authority like Metzger. If you still need help on describing and understanding what a good evaluation means, bring this up on the discussion board and get some team thinking on it well before the due date. The high distinction uses the word excellent. What does that mean? Have a definition you are happy with well before the lodgement date. Ask your teammates what they think excellent means. It's again the same process for the criteria of structure. What does well-structured and logical mean? Look at the down one descriptor of credit. It uses the terms reasonably well-structured. It's a matter of degree, whereas the HD descriptor adds cohesive. Ask yourself the question, which is the most logical way for the reader or the marker to understand? Find out the opinions from others from the discussion board, also well before the lodgement date. Get it clear in your head. Ask yourself, is describing how you learn and what helps from each website, then going back and describing why each website is a credible choice, again as a separate section, is that more or less logical than handling source credibility and learning by website? Your answer to that question will change your structure and could push you towards a HD. For spelling and grammar, the distinction descriptor question is this: is my writing mostly free of spelling errors and or problems with grammar? Get someone to proofread. That means focusing only on typos, spelling errors and grammar, a bit like a book editor does. Some people are awesome at this while others are not. Go find somebody well before you lodge your assessment. What distinguishes a HD for this criteria? Its tone appropriate to the task. What does that mean? Someone, and why not be you, should ask this question on the discussion boards and get team thinking on what tone means well before the due date. Are we getting the process? I hope so. Now for the all-important acknowledgement of sources criteria. Ask yourself the tough question. Have I acknowledged every one of my sources that I've used in the text, and provide a reference list and attempted to follow the conventions of either Harvard or APA style? The HD doesn't have the word attempted. A fundamental premise that is easy to miss is this: every reference on your reference list must be mentioned in the text in accordance with the correct in-text style requirements, and also the other way around. If you mention someone in the text, their work must be in your reference list. Once your assessment has been proofed and corrected and almost ready for lodgement, get the SOL style guide for the style you have chosen, e.g. Harvard, and check how you have cited the reference in the text and on your list against the sample list in the style guide. Fine-tune your references as one of the last checks you do before lodging. We are getting there. For the conclusion criteria, the tough distinction descriptor question is this: has my conclusion clearly demonstrated the ability to draw together ideas, that is, the ideas of why the sites are credible and authentic, and does it identify learning from online sources? You also need to understand why you would only get a credit for your conclusion. Look at that descriptor. Have you only identified some key learning, and could the marker think you need more detail? If you go up one, what would you need to get a HD? Your conclusion clearly demonstrates the ability to draw together ideas and comprehensively identifies learning. You need to read your content before you start your conclusion and capture the main ideas you have included. List them, then weave them into a conclusion and make sure it comprehensively identifies how you have learned. Also, remember, a conclusion does not introduce new ideas. It gathers together what goes before it and prioritizes those. I hope now we're getting the idea of the process of learning how to learn by using the marking guide and the criteria. Okay, let's review the process. Start by targeting the distinction descriptors of every criteria on the assessment marking guide and push towards the one-up HD. Everything you write or produce is to meet the criteria at the D level of quality or better. Get that firmly in your sights. If you can't satisfy yourself, you understand such description concepts as clear and excellent in the context of how they are used in the marking guide, ask the team for help using the discussion boards. Do this well before the lodgement deadline and invite your ELA to join the discussion. Now let's review by criteria for assessment 1. Think about your assessment and the feedback you received. How close to the following did you get? Can you do better next time? For the description, communicate a clear description of how the chosen websites have helped you learn and link to the learning models. For evaluation, understand and apply what makes a website credible and authentic. Refer to Metzger. For structure, Read and reread the assessment marking guide to establish desired and cohesive structure of your assessment. Get clarity from team discussion. For spelling and grammar, get your work proofread for spelling and grammar. Get someone to focus on that alone, like a book editor does. For acknowledgement of sources, do one read at least totally designated to identifying your sources. Make sure in-text references are in your reference list and vice versa. Carefully apply the APA or Harvard style guides. For conclusion, extract the main ideas of your assessment and weave into a conclusion, referring back to why your choices are credible. Include the details of your learning. I believe if you write out a similar thing for each assessment and keep revisiting while you prepare your contribution, you will push towards excellence and your grades will be in the D or HD zone. Just a few hints on how to create a screencast. You can do amazing things with the tools available to build these engaging presentations. A quick walkthrough. First, throw your ideas on a text file or a mind map. There are lots of great mind map applications out there, especially for the iPad. Organise these ideas so they flow and make sense. Then, storyboard your keynote presentation or PowerPoint slides as I tell the SMEs or subject matter experts I work with, throw black words on white PowerPoint slides. First, use as few slides as possible and try not to get too many words on it unless there's a way around that. Set up your slides. Always have a graphic or an image on every slide. Slides with only text are banned. Repeat, banned. Never use just a slide with text. Go through your presentation and script it by slide. Talk it through and write it down into a script. Transfer the script to a TV prompter program. These utilities are low cost and often free. Record the webcam commentary like I'm doing right now. Then export the slides as images. Assemble them in ScreenFlow or Camtasia. ScreenFlow for the Mac, Camtasia for the PC. You can download either of these programs as a free trial and use it for your assessments. Watch the limitations, like one has watermarks and the other has time limit. Add effects, then export it as a movie. Okay, that's it for this presentation. I hope you can see the possibilities for future assessments. I have tried to give you markers on how to learn and manage for a D or a HD in your next assessment. Work with your teams and nail the distinction descriptors clearly into your sites. Use these as your benchmarks. And as Diana says, the difference between mediocrity and excellence is often just a matter of effort. The final word? Go for a D or HD. I am confident you all can do it.